So just like I expected, there was no way that initial chunk of games that I bought during the summer sale were going to be the only games that I bought during the summer sale, and in fact I bought about 10 to 15 more. However, I'm not going to go through all 10 or 15 of them right now, because some of them I'm going to use for other videos, and I don't want to just, exhaust you with a gigantic video that's just me going over everything that I bought from the summer sale. But what I will do is go over about 6 or 7 titles that I picked up during this last and final, I hope, batch of purchases from the summer sale, and games that I've just been really looking forward to and finally found them at a decent price. And I'm going to go ahead and kick this list off with another game that is kind of like Dust that I went over in that other video, and that is Nightmare Reaper. Nightmare Reaper jumped out at me immediately because it is another one of those first-person shooters that is a throwback to the earliest entries in the genre. Again, games like Wolfenstein, Doom, Quake, Hexen, and the like, where it has some pretty basic sprite-based graphics, but they've been punched up with some modern lighting and particle effects. However, unlike Dust that I went over in that previous summer sale video, this game features procedurally generated levels, which initially I was a little bit skeptical of because I think those can be done really poorly at times. However, from everything I've read, it seems like they've done a good job of making sure that even though it is using procedurally generated levels, that it does so in a way that is pleasing and just fun to play. The basic premise, as I understand it, is that you are a patient in an insane asylum, which is always a great setup for a game, and whenever you choose to go to sleep, that is when you are subjected to a nightmarish world full of horrors for you to blast your way through. Now, in addition to being procedurally generated, there's supposed to be a really great variety of weapons on offer in Nightmare Reaper. Throw in the fact that the game periodically throws out new enemy types with you that present their own challenges, whether they explode or devolve into just puddles of toxic, acidic goo for you to avoid. And with that much variety being combined in interesting ways, I was fairly certain that I would have a good time with this one. Don't get me wrong, just going for the sprite-based low-poly aesthetic would have been enough to get my attention, but the fact that they really did go out of their way to ensure that the gameplay experience would be unique, and not just a copy-paste clone of similar experiences that you might be familiar with, and that was enough to put me over the edge and finally take the leap on Nightmare Reaper. I just hope that in addition to the aesthetics and the fast frenetic combat that I've seen on display so far, that it actually has a cool story to go along with everything, but hey, I guess I'll find out. Next up is a game that originally I only knew about because of limited run games, and I think they did a physical copy on the PS4 and maybe the Switch, but I totally missed out on it, and that is Rabi-Ribi. Now, the premise of Rabi-Ribi is that you are a bunny who's been turned into a girl, and now you're some bunny-girl hybrid, I guess? And as far as I know, your goal is to track down exactly what turned you into this, and I'm assuming return to your bunny form. Maybe I'm way off on that, but really it wasn't the story and the aesthetics that really drew me in so much as the fact that it is a Metroidvania. And on the long list of Metroidvanias that I've enjoyed before, Bunny who gets turned into a girl is definitely not a premise that I'd seen before, so I figured why not roll the dice since it was only like $7. I think normally it goes for about 20 to 30. And really the biggest standout here beyond the pixelated anime aesthetic is that the boss fights in this game are supposed to be absolutely brutal. In fact, they're not even supposed to be really traditional boss fights the way you would think of them in a Metroidvania, but rather they're supposed to be like that, but also combined with elements of a bullet hell. Now, I don't think that bullet hell idea extends to every aspect of Rabi-Ribi's gameplay, which is to say, as you're running around exploring new areas and unlocking new abilities and facing random scrub enemies, I don't think every single one of those encounters is going to be, some brutal exercise in futility or anything like that. But at least for me personally, I always felt that the boss battles were the highlight of the Metroidvania genre. I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy, running around, exploring new areas, or finding that one weird ability that unlocks some place that was previously inaccessible. Like, that's all good fun. But for me, I always liked the stiff challenge of finally overcoming a really brutal boss battle, and it looks like Rabi-Ribi's gonna throw that at you in spades. Granted, with an anime bunny girl aesthetic, but hey, I'm reserving judgment until I've actually had some more time with the game and can actually see what those combat encounters are like. Next up is a game that I thought looked really cool and weird and sort of esoteric, and I guess that makes sense considering it is a Devolver Digital release, but that is Boomerang X. And that's the thing, I don't really know much about Boomerang X except for some of the gameplay videos I've seen where it looks like maybe you're a mummy of some sort, but as the name suggests, you have a boomerang at your disposal. But rather than just being a projectile that you can toss around, it also has some really cool abilities. Whenever you throw it, if you hit another button, you can instantly teleport to where the boomerang is, and you also have a button to quickly recall the boomerang, because, while it's in motion and not in your hands, that is time where you can't attack. And I'm really intrigued by that idea because I feel like they've just taken a small number of mechanics and a very simple idea of chucking a boomerang and really turned it into a special experience, but I'm gonna have to spend time with it before I can say that. For me, I have no idea what the story is about. I have no idea why we have mummy arms. I just like the idea that you can sort of zip around a variety of environments chucking this deadly boomerang around. At first I was worried it might be a little bit sluggish and slow where most of the speed would come from the boomerang itself, but it looks like as you continue on to those later levels and start to unlock more and more mechanics that you can really just zip around these arenas and deal with waves of enemies as they come at you. And I have to say, I really like this art style as well, and I've always had a ton of respect for any creative endeavor where they're able to create a lot using just a few key components. Plus, even though I love super long games in the vein of like Elden Ring or Horizon Zero Dawn, plus I always appreciated what I call palate cleanser games, that is, games that are not like 10, 20, 30 hours long or anything like that, but can be beat in a more reasonable, meager amount of time in like that 4 to 8 hour range. And I think Boomerang X is going to provide exactly that. A short, punchy experience with good looks, simple mechanics that just interlock in interesting ways, and provide a sort of one and done experience. Although it does have you battling waves of enemies periodically, so there might be some incentive there to return and just see if you can, play better. Next up is a game that I got because I thought it would be a combination of 2 games, and while I have yet to confirm that, based on what I've seen it certainly looks like it, and that is Wavebreak. Wavebreak looks cartoony and goofy and fun and all set to a synthwave aesthetic, which, again, if you've seen anything on this channel, you know I'm a huge fan of, and provides the player with the ability to go skateboating, which sounds completely absurd, and I'm absolutely here for it. My guess, based on what I've seen so far, is they will take some elements of games like Wave Race and elements of games like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and just sort of smash them together. I just thought taking the traditional gameplay of a skateboarding game and applying it to an aquatic setting sounded like a whole lot of fun, and apparently aside from just like the regular sort of runs you would expect where you're trying to get, big scores and do all the tricks that you can, they also included a deathmatch mode, which I was not expecting. I'm not sure if that's the mode that I would actually prefer to play the most, because honestly it just sounds more fun for me to do, again, like classic Tony Hawk 2-minute runs and see what tricks can be pulled off and just sort of chill out with a game like this. But I think it says a lot that they went out of their way to even further differentiate what was already kind of a weird little game that, again, has combined apparently the best of speedboating and skateboarding. And again, the fact that they did all of this with a cartoony presentation and a synthwave soundtrack was definitely a great way to grab my attention and get me to purchase this game. I'm a little bit concerned about how the mechanics are going to play out, because I can't imagine you have the same sort of precision on a speedboat as you would with a skateboard based on what I've played before. But as somebody who grew up playing all the original Tony Hawk titles and really just loving games that have a summer aesthetic period, this was pretty much a no-brainer for me for the summer sale. Next up is a game that I rolled the dice on based on a personal fear of spiders, and that is Kill It With Fire. Now here's the thing, I live in Ohio and obviously it's warming up, and when it warms up, you get more spiders. I am not terrified of spiders, I just don't like them when they're right near my person. If I see a spider like, chilling on the ceiling somewhere far away from where I work or wherever I'm hanging out, I'm perfectly content to let the little guy be. But whenever they start to invade my personal space, I'm way less forgiving. And I thought that maybe a game like Kill It With Fire would be therapeutic maybe, or offer some sort of catharsis where you play as an exterminator whose job it is to kill spiders at various locations, whether that be a house, a gas station, I think I saw a convenience store in some of the early gameplay footage. And despite the cartoony graphics, for me this is going to be more of a horror game, I'm sure. Because as you're starting to explore whatever location you're looking to clear out, you might pick up a picture frame or open a drawer, and then there will just be a spider there, and I'm assuming it's going to freak me out something fierce. But I also couldn't help myself with the sickening delight of using something like a flamethrower to deal with a spider, or indeed controlled demolition, or just setting an entire gas station on fire just to get rid of one spider. And I don't really expect Kill It With Fire to give me some greater insight into the human condition or provide some sprawling narrative. I just like the idea of killing a bunch of cartoon spiders with a variety of bonkers munitions and just being completely terrified of it. So yeah, Kill It With Fire is probably not the deepest, most engaging game on this list, but it's something that I'd heard people talk about for a really long time, and it was on sale for I think like $2 or $3, and I decided, you know what, today's the day, I'm gonna go ahead and try this out and see if it just, again, doesn't freak me out something fierce as I worry about the spiders in my own home and how horribly I'm going to react to them on a long enough timeline. And finally, the last entry on this list is Pac-Man Championship Edition DX+, which, wow, is a real mouthful. And the thing is, I'm pretty sure I played this before, but I can't remember where. It was either on Game Pass or maybe a buddy had it or something, but here's the thing. For a lot of people, Pac-Man is one of, if not the most recognizable game in history, second only maybe to Tetris or Mario, right? It's an absolute classic. But the thing is, for all of the attempts I've seen over the years to either remake or remix or reinvigorate the Pac-Man formula away from, the original Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man incarnations, there haven't really been a lot that resonated with me in a significant way. But Pac-Man Championship Edition, that's a whole lot of fun, and I definitely think it's worth checking out. And it was on sale for I think $2, where normally it's only like $10, so it's not really an expensive game even when it's not on sale, but it's a whole lot of fun. Now the premise of Pac-Man is pretty simple, right? You're Pac-Man, you eat pellets, ghosts chase you, you eat power pellets, you eat them. But the cool thing about Championship Edition is it does introduce some fun new mechanics, which I admit do seem to detract from the challenge a little bit, but then again the challenge has been completely remixed in this as well. Where the ultimate thrill of the original Pac-Man might have been to eat a fruit or collect a power pellet and get all 4 ghosts, Pac-Man Championship Edition gives you the ability to eat 30 ghosts in a row if you want, and each one you chomp down bursting with auditory and visual cues that are just absolutely addictive. Not to mention I absolutely love the graphics in Pac-Man Championship Edition, because as you progress further, you can even even unlock new aesthetics for each of the levels to make it even more eye-searingly saturated if you want. Don't get me wrong, the sights and sounds of the original Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man are totally iconic, but I really love how they amped the audiovisual presentation here up to 11, and everything is just, it's just so vivid. It's really almost hard to describe. I mean, I'll put footage up here on screen, obviously, but seeing how perfectly these just big, bonkers audiovisual elements interlink with the animation and how it feels to control Pac-Man, and throw in the fact that you have a couple of new abilities, including a bomb that will instantly just send all of the ghosts back to their chamber, and I'd say Pac-Man Championship Edition really is one of the best remixes of a classic game that I've ever seen. And I really can't wait to spend more time with this one. Alright, and that's it, or at least I'm hoping that's it. I mean, I suppose theoretically we are coming down to the final hours of the summer sale, so I could jump back in there and buy a ton more games. So, you know, what about you? What games did you pick up during the summer sale? Let me know in the comments below. Ideally tomorrow, maybe not today, so I'm not tempted to run out and buy more. But anyways, thanks for taking the time to watch the video. Always appreciate it. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye.